Back in my Navy pilot days, I had a commanding officer that said to me, "Bad news doesn't get better with time." And what he meant by that is, if he allowed me to get into this aircraft and go fly it, if I did something that wasn't quite what it should have been, that I should be sure that I was the one that delivered that message, and he didn't get it from air traffic control or another aviator. It had to come from me. And I thought about that, and I thought, my mom taught me that same thing too. Back in the day, we would go out to play. A lot of people did that back in the day. We'd go outside to play. You come home before the streetlights. Yes, ma'am, I promise I will do that. And oh, by the way, if you do anything wrong, stop immediately and run home. Because if I get the information that you've done something wrong today from someone other than you, you're in like double secret probation rather than just regular probation. It's exactly the same way in a real estate transaction. One of the few places in business where you negotiate for something and then try it out is buying a house. It's really kind of weird. So the house is $300,000, they negotiate, and now it's $275,000, subject to an inspection. Now, after the home inspection, have you ever heard of a scenario where the price of the house went up after the inspection?
Not once.
Never happens. It's always going down. Bad news doesn't get better with time. So if God looked down from above and said there are 10 imperfections in this particular home, would it be better to know them and either correct them or disclose them? Or is it better to negotiate on the house and then let that little secret come on out prior to closing?
This is a good debate point. All right, so where you're going is kind of obvious, right? If we know about the problems, we can deal with them on our terms, and then we negotiate the price, and hopefully that price sticks better because we have a house that's prepared. Let me play devil's advocate to that a little bit. I've sold a few homes. When the inspector comes in and does their inspection, a lot of stuff that they find is fairly minor. You know, it's not every house that has, certainly, a $20,000 structural problem. It's not every house that needs a $5,000 furnace and AC replacement. You know, it's a lot of little stuff. And it just seems customary and typical in the real estate transaction that we find a laundry list of these items, and then as a seller, I get to play Mr. Cooperative and say, yes, I'll do that now, let's go to close. And for a few $100 or maybe $1,000 or less, typically, I'm to the closing table. Doesn't that make the buyer feel like, you know, again, in this customary and typical model of what real estate is, doesn't it make them feel like they got something out of the process?
I don't like that answer at all. I truly don't. The idea isn't about winning per se. It's about being in the best place when the transaction is over. So a seller is naturally resistant. They believe their home is perfect. There's nothing wrong. I don't want to make any repairs. Point of fact, people learn how to live in their houses. They know, oh, the shower, just turn it halfway because it spins all the way around. You learn to live with the imperfections. Back to houses being like spouses, you kind of learn to live with the imperfections, though they're still really there. If we can do that pre-listing inspection, it allows the agent to be in a better position to price position and have that discussion with the buyer. Seldom, if ever, does the real estate agent want to be the person who's telling the seller they have an ugly baby. If that discussion about property condition comes from the inspector, all that's happening is the agent's delivering the information, not really the source of information. And they can kind of rock the seller a little bit, as the evil home inspector said that. But it puts them in control. In any negotiation, doesn't matter what we're negotiating, Nathan, the person who brings the information to the table is the person in control, even if the information is derogatory.
There's something about this conversation that's very interesting. This is why Zillow can't be a 100% of real estate transactions from start to finish, because the process is emotional, it's regional. Here in Carmel, Indiana, if I buy a house, I want an inspection, I want my $1,000 worth of stuff fixed. And where you're coming from, you're dealing with some premier property. Our beach is a walking trail. Your beach is an actual beach. So our houses might be a little bit, different. We're okay with them having some imperfections, and we like that part of the transaction. We like to get that little bit at the end. So I don't know, but I don't know that it would prevent that from happening, which is one of the problems with a pre-listing inspection, right? I hire you to do a pre-listing inspection. The next guy comes in, he finds 20 things that you didn't that are, somewhat subjective in nature. Doesn't it make you look foolish?
20 is an exaggeration. That looked foolish. Here is the truth. If there's 10 imperfections in the house, let's make believe the home inspector found 9 during the pre-listing inspection. Now, about that 10th one, why would there be a 10th one? There's 3 reasons. Sometimes things change. That's very honest. Sometimes things have been obscured. Typically at the time of pre-listing inspection is before we've done the big cleaning, before we've done the staging, before we've done the decluttering. So the second inspector is actually seeing a different house than the first inspector. And here's a really honest position that many people are uncomfortable with. My entire inspection staff, every home inspector I know, is at the core a human. And some of those humans make mistakes. And if they've made a mistake, that's a very honest thing. But when you get back to the transaction, would we rather be dealing with one item, whatever caused it, whether it was something new, something missed, or something obscured, or all 10? The greatest benefit to the real estate agent, to the listing agent of the pre-listing inspection, is proper price positioning. It will help them to understand how that house is different from expectation of others in the neighborhood, get the price position right. It also then puts it in control for the seller. They can decide, yes, I'll have that professionally repaired, yes, I'll do that myself, or yes, I'll disclose it. They're deciding what to do. Outside of a real estate transaction, they've got tremendous flexibility, they've got all the options in the world, they're making choices, and those choices are to their benefit.